Good afternoon and welcome. This is Raph streaming to you live. Hi, Villa Keep in the Wisdom Labs studio.
Yeah.
Ian, Workhorse,
Hey.
I have you with me. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me out here. I think I'm the guest in the hot air balloon that
It's
came.
so cool that you came out here. Like, honestly, putting this whole evening week, I don't know, you inspired a lot of people to come out here this time.
Well, thank you. Really excited to be here, and this game has been inspirational to me and the rest of the community. So I think it's the feeling's mutual. So let's start with it wasn't that long of a drive for me. I'm from the Midwest, from Iowa. How do you feel that developing a game in the Midwest might have its pros or cons?
Ooh, that's good. That's a good question. The cons are there isn't as much talent here in the Midwest. Most folks who want to get into this sector or category end up going to the coasts, mostly West Coast. I mean, most game dev studios are out there. Most game dev studios are not even in this country. But I love Minnesota and I love the Twin Cities. I even love Iowa. I spent a lot of time in Des Moines. However, I think it's important to build kind of where you want to plant roots, and building out Wisdom Studios at the Mall of America was very deliberate. We wanted to be a real hub for the Midwest for gaming and esports. And on the lab side of things, just attracting cool people to want to also plant roots and do good work here in Minnesota is definitely a part of it. So yeah, the cons are everyone's kind of out there, but I think the pros of just sort of like building out a great roster of people that want to build cool games in this area is really dope.
That's awesome. So let's back up a little bit, and I want to get into some, maybe some interview questions about you. If I was reading your bio information correctly, and correct me if I get anything wrong here, you started recording music when you were 13?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So that was that the start of both a music and entrepreneurship career for you?
Yeah. So I really love to build businesses around things that I love. Which is building business. That's an infinite loop. So really, when I was a kid, I grew up in a very musical family. My father was 80s hair metal rocker, like absolutely. I was basically had a guitar in my hands by the time I was 5. I loved to be in a band and stuff. So 13 was actually my first business. Wasn't a music business. It was a lawn care company.
Okay.
As the story goes, I basically got all my neighborhood friends together and I essentially hired them out to do. I wasn't good at mowing lawns, so I just kind of became the overlord. But
I had a similar thing, but we did detasseling in Iowa. Do you do any detasseling in Minnesota?
Not here, but I'm familiar.
Okay, yeah. Similar thing where I did not like detasseling, but I was able to overlord and encourage minions to do detasseling.
Sometimes people are better at it than you, and you got to contribute in some way you can. So I was good at the nerd stuff,
Yeah. So that's pretty neat that you feel like the closeness to your family from those musical roots. And so how much control have you guys had with the music that's going to take place in the future game, or is that something that Sam's running?
No,
with now?
Sam wrote it all.
That's awesome.
It's done. It's nice. He did a great.
He's done such a great job already.
I was never worried about it for a second.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's had that on lock for a while.
Yeah. Okay, so you're no stranger to startups. What excites you about the Web3 space and Wisdom Labs' future role in this space?
Man, how long is this podcast? So to try to get it into like a digestible answer, I love Blue Ocean. That has been sort of my whole thing since I was young. I really enjoy figuring something out and seeing what can be done with it. We're all huge supporters of the tech in the DFK community. I think we all get why it's here and why we're here. But I think the parts that excite me the most about right now is the figuring out how to do games right. So many people are working on it. So many great people are working on it that I feel like I'm confident that the community will figure it out in the next couple of years. I mean, by community, I mean the gaming community at large. Mm-hmm. And I think that's coming, and that excites me. The opportunity in terms of why even Wisdom Labs became a thing was because it's really hard as a larger company to enter into the Web3 space and know who to trust and how to trust. It's hard to hop on Discord and DM somebody who you will never meet and whose name you don't know, and then ask them to build something for you if you're like Best Buy or 3M or something. And so Labs started out to be just sort of like a friendly round face that people could call like and actually meet and like be super accountable in the space. And so the idea was to assemble basically a dream team of devs, creatives, and just big time thinkers to try to build cool stuff in the space without many of the hurdles that have come with the space in the past of anonymity or whatnot. We're fully doxxed and we're out there and doing that stuff. So that was one of the opportunities that I saw of just being friendly, which is kind of funny to say.
Yeah, but it makes sense, and I think it's something that fits the core ethos of the DeFi Kingdoms community right now too. There isn't a lot of docs, but there is a strong bond between community members.
And when Labs started, I actually didn't even think working on DFK would ever happen, right? It was sort of upon a lark that it even occurred in the first place, the Lab's presence was just to be that friendly sort of vibe, and that vibe is just the exact same as the DFK community vibe. It's been pretty awesome. I've been in it forever. Like I was a week one DFKer,
yeah.
And so I've been in the scene enough to know that the vibe was immaculate.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really until we got sort of off the ground making DFK that it was just like overwhelmingly, supportive and cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't say week one. I'm like month 3.
Month 3 is pretty damn good.
With Neindorf getting me involved. I still remember we were at the playground with our Gen 1s, and they're off playing, and that was actually in the old days, and you'll appreciate this, when the heroes wouldn't fully load, and you would have a naked hero show up first.
That still happens to me.
I'm like, Neindorf, the kids are right here. What are
we doing?
What are we playing? And he's like, no, wait.
There was actually a bug in PvP for about 6 weeks where they were just naked the whole time.
All right. DeFi Kingdoms After Dark.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so what you talked a little bit about it, but tell me more about the relationship between Wisdom Gaming and Wisdom Labs.
Oh yeah.
And you were part of both entities, and you had the idea of Wisdom Labs, right, from Wisdom Gaming. So
I started Wisdom Gaming with a bunch of really cool people about four-ish years ago, and after spending the first 3 years of that just really building out of our minds, the company kind of became, I don't want to say fully baked because that's not really possible in esports and gaming, but it was in a really sustainable spot where really wonderful people were in the right positions, pulling all the levers and pushing all the buttons. And so the company was in such a spot where Mike Swigbaum, who is the CEO of Wisdom, he kind of gave me the go-ahead of like, okay, you want to start something, what is it? Go for it. And he kind of cut me loose to just see what was out there. And that was not long ago. That was July last year. And so now that I said that out loud, it feels like an eternity, but it really wasn't. And it wasn't shortly thereafter that we started to really connect with the DFK guys. And yeah, it was a pretty cool moment. Mike for trusting me to just go and build something, but also it was cool to have Wisdom at a point where we're like, okay, we know who we are, we know what we're doing, so now we can splinter off and create a new department.
I love it. So, let's get into some of the basics of the game.
Sure. Yeah.
And I know there's going to probably be some questions that I touched on that you won't be able to fully share, and tell me if I'm barking up the wrong tree. And then also I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't try to
get some alpha.
Get some alpha and throw the questions out there. So let's start with the basics. Basic attack. We don't know what basic attack is yet. What can you share about that?
So that's one that I'm not allowed to talk about fully yet. However, when we do get to, I think it'll be a big sigh of relief from pretty much everybody. So basic attack, there are 2 forms of it, a physical version and a spell version. And they are tied specifically to your weapon along with some base stats for each of your heroes. That is as far as I'm allowed to say right now. But it's one of those things that we've been wanting to spoil for a while, but like the timing hasn't been just right. But they'll be soon.
I love it. And I mean, obviously that's part of what this week is going to be about too, is the teams coming together and hopefully hammering out some of these details. So, let's talk about that physical and magical damage. Are heroes assigned to deal one damage type?
So it depends on a lot of different things, but each weapon has the capability of both physical and magical, or physical or magical.
Okay.
And attacks tend to be magical or physical.
Okay.
And that weighs heavily on the type of class. Like wizard, everything that they do is magical.
Right.
Priest, everything will be magical. But Dark Knight,
okay, that seems like a
not
hybrid
everything
class.
would be magical.
Right.
Not everything would be physical either.
Yeah.
Dread Knight, there's going to be some spicy nuggets. I mean, Spellbow by itself, you launch physical projectiles wrapped in magic.
Right.
What?
Right. That's
So
awesome.
there's
I'm
got to
looking forward
be
to it. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about speed.
Yeah.
This is going to be a turn-based game. Speed is king in a lot of RPGs. How do you determine, who goes first? Is that just a straight agility calculation?
At this point, it's a straight agility calculation. However, it is First Strike plays into that as well.
Right.
And we are actually looking really closely at enhancing how we do turns too.
Okay.
We are pretty deep into testing, and so there's some things we like about it, some things we don't like about the current system. So that might actually be something we change, but that would be a little bit further down the road. But for now, agility, that's the way.
Well, let's put a pin in testing. I want to come back to that in a little bit. I would say my burning question, as I've been thinking about you developing this game, is that we're trying to find a balance. There's the Web 3 games right now, which are all decentralized, and they're using these unique NFTs that have a market value. And then there's Web 2 games, and Web 2 games, it's only skill as a differentiator, where all classes, all heroes have equal capability.
Most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time. Yeah. Well, I should say, each unique hero that you can pilot, whether you drive it or whether I drive it, they'll have the same capability. So we're, bringing those together with this. I mean, that's going to take a lot of finesse to figure that balance out. What role do you see the community playing in trying to help you find that balance?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, first of all, wonderful question. This is probably the hardest thing. Of all of the things that we're doing.
I believe it.
Being able to balance a game where base stats scale based upon rarity, based upon advanced or elite class or whatnot, this is very hard. And the only way we're going to get it right is trial and error, but through feedback and through testing with the community. There's going to be, I don't know if I can swear, but there will be a shit ton of that. There'll be plenty of balance that's going to be coming and going. Our plan is to basically patch weekly for as long as we possibly can to get this game into a spot where it's feeling balanced and feeling good. The reality is that without data, it's less effective. So that balance won't be supreme or chef's kiss until months into it actually existing. So we're going to have to do the preseason of some sort where it's just like we're just all bashing each other and trying to get math and like realizing that Archer's like super OP for some reason and we don't know why, and then we have to figure that out. Like, it's going to be a process.
I was on my phone just buying Archers now.
Yeah,
so
sweet.
Thank
I saw that.
All right. I think that's exciting. I appreciate the openness to embracing this and also asking for help. I think that goes back to what we were talking about with the community, and finding a way to incorporate. I mean, there's a lot of big brains out there.
Well, it's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Right? This game is so cool because of the people that are involved in it that don't work, on the game. Like the how enriched the community is by simply the presence of the community itself, like interwoven with each other. Like, that is easily one of the most inspiring things about this community and about the game as a whole. And this game is only going to be as cool as the people who are kind of a part of this. Like, that's kind of the exciting part about Web3 games, is that we the whole point is to be proactively listening and engaging and then getting feedback, even if it's brutal, but like working on it, you know, and using that to just make the game better, because what's the point if not to make a game that everyone's going to love? And the only way we're going to get there is if everyone's expressing how they see this could be changed to that they could love it more.
Okay, so I want to go to or use a movie as a reference for my next interview question, Blades of Glory.
Yes.
All right, so, you know, right now it feels like, I imagine you and Hubert are John Hader and Will Ferrell, and you're trying to do the Iron Lotus right now.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I think I'm Will Ferrell.
Okay. Excellent. Yep. And so you guys are trying to do the Iron Lotus. And for those of you who haven't watched Blades of Glory, I guess, you know, turn off the video because this isn't for you.
This is a spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler alert. So you guys are two handsome ice skaters, and you're trying to do an extremely elaborate maneuver up in the air. And I'm not going to lie, when I first saw the codexes for for the characters coming out, or the heroes, I have Thief on my mind because I want to ask questions about Thief later. That's why I misspoke there. But you know, when you had these codexes come out, I was like, wow, this is complex. And the nerdy engineering side of my brain is loving this. The side of my brain that wants, you know, that's crypto degen and, you know, wants something Thune. It's like, oh my gosh. So how do you find that balance, and why did you guys choose to do the Iron Lotus?
So spectacular way of approaching this question. So when we started talking, it was going to be a small thing. It was actually, I would consider it a mini game when we first started. And it took about 2 meetings for us to all realize, wait a second, this isn't the game anyone wants to make. They want to make a real monster. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, one thing to consider when thinking about where DFK is going. This team, and I get to sort of speak objectively because I'm not on the Kingdom Studios squad, but like, you know, they always say, like, you know, never meet your heroes. But like, the reality is, once I kind of got in cahoots with the Kingdom Studios dudes, like, these people are all legit. These are the people that you want to be making the game, that you want to be just absolutely degenning forever. I mean, this isn't financial advice. Please do not take me for that. But what I mean is time.
Any longtime listeners know that nothing we say here is financial advice.
Like, I've played this game every day since week 1. I've sent out quests manually. I do not use a bot. I've looked into it, but
I'll get you on the Neindorf bot. Now you have to drive your Raspberry Pi to where Neindorf lives, and then you can get it installed.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Neindorf. Appreciate it, man. And I've been clicking every day. I've been leveling up. I've been wheeling and dealing, trading and selling, and summoning out of my mind this whole time. And so I needed to make sure that, personally, I just was thrilled to meet the folks making this game, to understand that, oh, okay, this time that I've put in, this investment that I've put in is in a good place, and these people truly care, and they are actually as galaxy brain as most of us theorized. And so, why did we do the Iron Lotus? It's because we could. Like, that's the answer. It's gonna take longer. Everyone's gonna be just a little impatient with us, and I know that. But the reality is that long term, this is like going to be legit and super real. Whereas I'm not sure other projects I've had the good fortune of working with, it's hard to do that when you don't have this committed group of people from Kingdom. And so why we even did it was because we could. And like I said, it'll take time, but it'll be well worth it.
Since you already swore and you opened up the floodgates, that's a badass answer. I loved it. So let's talk a little bit about balance some more. And you brought up the idea of rarity. Mm-hmm. I mean, these heroes of different rarity and of different advanced classes, they all have stats. Is that the differentiating feature between them?
That is the one thing I cannot control, is stat growth. And so the idea is to develop a game that functions as balanced as possible while acknowledging and honoring the exceptions. So if you have, let's just stick with archer because it's easy. Let's just say your archer has insane dexterity and is just like unbelievably and like rolls crazy.
There's
luck.
still PJ survivors out
Yeah,
there.
it's true.
That haven't been dark summoned yet.
Yeah. And the reality is, if that is an exceptional archer that has rolled incredibly well, or the owner of that archer has, crystalled every single thing, has atonement on it, has everything going for it, like that hero will be better because their stats are greater. That is one thing that fundamentally existed prior to us working on this, so that can't change. So the challenge is to respect that people have higher end heroes that they've spent a lot of time and effort to level up to be as competitive as possible, meanwhile not having it be completely alienating to somebody who just showed up and just bought a bunch of commons off floor and just hoping for the best. Granted, buying commons off the floor and hoping to be top tier in PvP isn't realistic. That isn't realistic in like any game.
Right.
But the idea is to find that balance in between, so that weirdly, and now this is something that's more of an Ian thing, less of a Kingdom or a Wisdom thing. Like, I look at high-end mythic heroes as like mini celebrities. I don't know if you've ever followed like those Dread Knight accounts of those like the first Mythic Dread Knight.
Yeah.
Like, I followed that account forever because it was like, if that Mythic Dread Knight plays in PvP on somebody's squad and someone's piloting it, because it's an NFT, because it's an NFT hero, it's not too hard to take the fantastical stretch to be like, that is a unique entity that is competing at the highest level. We should almost treat it like
I love
Tom
it.
Brady.
And I feel like that goes back to the balance between Web3 and Web2, where, in Web3 we have these assets that are NFTs that are unique and can carry this value, and I think that's also what brought us all into this game to begin with too. Is it's not playing Monopoly. There's real stakes here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's real stakes in Monopoly too. It breaks up families and friendships, but I mean, this is also real dollars, not Monopoly play money here.
I'm remembering my childhood friend Tyler right now.
Shout out Tyler.
Sorry, Tyler.
Will you have a elo or ladder system that will then start to differentiate and still allow for common heroes to play in this game?
So our competitive rollout will be coming in the next little bit. So I can't spill too many beans on that one. However, I've personally been in love with chess elo since I was a kid, and so that's what is going to be the root of a lot of inspiration. We probably will at some point bring things up into tiers or in terms of competitive modes. PvP is more like a genre, and of PvP there will be many types and modes of PvP. So there isn't going to be just one, which is maybe an alpha leak here, but like there will be aspects to PvP that will allow you to enjoy and engage in ways that are your speed, depending on who you are.
I'm going to move my microphone here for a moment. For those of you at home, we are huddled on a small couch using my awful audio equipment here. So viewers at home, I'm going to mute momentarily and then move this. All right. Now that we're back, I have no idea if the audio sounded bad, but it's funny. Dragon T from DFK was asking me, like, do you like to do editing after your videos are created? And I said, unequivocally no.
Yeah.
I am so lazy. I just want to, ship the video as soon as it gets done. So I'm trying to do this to balance out the voices. We'll see if that is successful. So we were talking about different game modes, and I'm going to have to go there. The most anticipated game mode, LAN tournaments. Can you share anything on that?
I can share that there's been a lot of work by the Kingdom Studios team on that particular topic. I don't work on that. That's not my team, but I know that that's something that they care a lot about.
Love it. Okay, so what question have I not asked you so far that you wish I would have asked you when we're thinking about the upcoming game?
Maybe like, what the fuck are we thinking with Wizard? Actually, Wowie DM'd me the other day asking, how crazy is Thief going to be on the scale of, Knight to Wizard? And I leveled with him. that that is the scale, knight to wizard. Wizard, I think, is going to be the craziest. I mean,
it feels crazy. It feels like you're balancing. Yeah. It's like the Iron Lotus on an Iron Lotus.
After we shipped it, we kind of just spent some time just thinking, like, this could be like a whole game just about wizards. So wizard is going to be the most complicated, and that is intentional. And knight is going to be the simplest, and that is intentional. The idea is that some people, if we want to tie in Magic the Gathering, some people are blue deck players that love to outthink their opponent. Control the battlefield. That's kind of the wizard vibe. Some people may just want to bash and just make huge monsters that just smash face.
Green beat.
Deck. Yep, there you go. And that's what knight or warrior would be. So it's sort of like, think of it as a spectrum of 1 through 10, 1 being knight, 10 being wizard. We're trying to get more of them into the bell curve of 5 to 7. There are a couple other crazy ones still coming, but hopefully wizard is the high end. It's easy to. Complication creep is very, very tempting to do because, we release a class and everyone goes, "Ooh, this is exciting." And they go, "Oh yeah, well, how about this?" It's tempting, but that's the goal right now.
Yeah, I mean that's how you trying to keep perfect from being the enemy of good.
Yes.
We need something.
Yeah.
So on the thief, and I'm not sure. I know it sounds like we're probably pushing the thief codex
because of this week, because everyone's in town and it's been a big to-do. Probably Thief is next week, is my guess.
Well, I could shut down the interview right now, and we can let the Thief Codex come out. I am most excited about the Thief. I have a PJ Survivor. I wasn't that degen early game, and I didn't really have the funds for it either. But what I did is I bought 2 Mythic Heroes just to send on the PJ. And my thought was, in 2 basics, I was like, if one of them survives, I'll be happy. Yeah. And with that 15 stat boost, they both survived, and I ended up selling the archer for a profit and keeping the thief. And so I am really attached to this thief that has this high, extremely awesome luck. So can you share anything about the different trees? Maybe not going into the abilities.
Ooh, well, luck is good.
Yes.
Luck is good.
Excellent.
Yeah. Luck was kind of one of those base stats that felt like it was ignored by everything, and so we've been sneaking it in here and there to get all the luck boys taken care of. But thief, there is so we're calling them disciplines.
Disciplines, okay.
So you can call them they were previously ability paths, right? Or skill paths, but now they're skill codex disciplines.
Got it.
As we refine what the heck we call things. But there is a very sneaky one. Yes. Where it's all about being the true sneaker. A couple of abilities, literally you channel to move through a team, essentially. So you can get to the back line.
Love that.
And still be melee.
Open up that backstab.
Yes, backstab. There is an ability called backstab.
Yes.
I had to honor the PvP.
Yes.
Yes. So beyond that, there are some interesting mana things that happen.
Okay.
In another skill discipline.
Any debuffs?
There's a lot.
Yes.
I wish Thief was out because we could talk about it a little bit more transparently. But then there's the third one, which is sort of a kind of like a crime lord.
Okay, I like that.
They're
I like those vibes.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting mercenary, thick as thieves kind of twists to it. So it'll be a lot of fun. There is, like I said, it's not going to be as insane as Wizard, but it will not be as tame as Archer.
Okay,
it'll be kind of in the middle.
I absolutely love that, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Thief when it does come out. Let's go with some of the testing that you want to happen in the future. What phase of development would you say you're in now, and then what phase of development? It's not all going to come out day one.
Correct.
And I think that makes sense, and I think the community is going to rally behind that idea. Are you calling these development phases, or am I kind of putting a conceptual framework to that?
Okay.
Yeah, so tell me more about like how are you deciding, what's what's the mile marker here, and we're gonna group this together as a phase.
So,
and I'm waving my hands around wildly here, for those of you listening at home.
The way this game had needed to be built was wild, because we needed to build the thing to help us build the game initially. So actually the first couple of months was spent building all of the engine work that needed to be done in order to actually make the game happen. The game will be surprising in the sense of how lightweight it is and how it can be played. I think that is something that is really exciting on the nerdy side, but that was a lot of what we did early on. So there was sort of a phase of just like, how do we actually want to make this game?
I mean, and that's a feat in itself. I mean, there is an elegance to simplicity that you don't see at first glance. So, I mean, kudos to you and the team for putting the groundwork, laying that groundwork to build that structure too.
And that was the part that was really important, is having that groundwork not be total ass, because so many other things are going to be coming after PvP that use PvP as the foundational framework. And that's not a very exciting thing to like point to and say, look, we're on the scoreboard because we made a really cool thing that we'll really enjoy in 18 months when we make this other thing that we're like, it's hard to point at that, but like we've been planning ahead so that there is, I hate tech debt. I really hate it. And I think if in 2 years we go, oh, well, we have to stop doing what we're doing now so we can upgrade all this, like that would just suck. And so we spent a lot of painstaking effort making sure that we were ahead of it, and so that the game will be really stable right out of the gates.
Tying to the beginning of the interview, that's a very Midwestern concept. We love our basements.
We really do.
And, I talk to people on the coast, Bolon, they don't have basements.
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't get it. I mean, we love our basements in the Midwest. All right.
Where do you put your jars?
Yeah. Where do you have a projector for watching your movies?
Yeah, exactly.
We just moved at the Raph household last year, and we moved from finished man cave, finished basement, very comfy setup, to not a finished basement. And my 8-year-old son, who's getting into video games and can already kick my butt, that was the hardest part of the move for him. Is like, where's I play?
His place?
Yeah, where do I play Breath of the Wild, Dad? Come on. So let's talk about kind of phases of the game. And a question that I have, and this might be a question for Hubert too, who I'm hoping to have some time to chat with when he flies in later tonight. Right now the game has a built-in mechanism for releasing 10 levels at a time through the rune systems that it has. It's obviously taken us a year and a half, I think, now, or maybe just over a year, where we've had between levels 10 and 20 released. What do you have in mind, or what can you share about, like, are we going to see, like, seasons where the next 10 levels is released? And I know we're super early. Like, do you have any, like, concept of, like, what that time frame is? Like, do we go through levels 20 through 30 over the next 8 months? Is that 6 months at a time, or have you even worried about the blocks of levels?
So sadly, that is a Hubert one. That's not my purview. However, what I can say is that is one of the, like, I don't want to call it like lucky, but it was like an incredible mechanic to walk into, because we get to obsess about balancing the game at level 20.
I love it. And
then we're like, okay, I think guys, we're ready. Let's go to 30, and and then we get to balance around that movement, because if everyone has access to all these insane abilities right out of the gates, it's just going to be an absolute cluster.
Yeah. Then maybe this is our pitch to Hubert to control that. Yeah. I mean, I can't wait. I'm envisioning like a world where they say, all right, 6 months, the next 10 levels are released. We'll get more experience from combat. We know that. That's nothing new. And so it's almost like a race. Try to get to the end of that 10 levels at the end of 6 months. And I really hope that there is space for people that don't want to bot, like yourself, that they can get there at the end of that 6 months and still participate in like an end of season tournament. Yeah. Something where it's like, all right, this is the big prize that we can all fight for. And the whales that want to stand pot like right away, that actually feeds the community because you have LP pools around stamp pots, around materials, and so that brings up the value of your questing heroes. So I think that that's actually a really healthy construct. So I'm glad that you like it too.
Thumbs up. I'm glad you like it.
All right. Let's see. What other questions I have? How do you avoid the Batman fate crypto version?
Do you mean the one where he lives long enough to become the enemy?
Yep. So that's the die the villain or live long enough to become, in the crypto version, is the rugger.
Oh gosh.
So how do you die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, or die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the rugger? So how do you avoid that Batman fate?
I don't know if you can. I think the reality is that's already happened to me once or twice in the past, where working with different gaming communities, trying to build something amazing, and then eventually, if it doesn't work, everyone is mad at you because you have to stop working on a game or whatnot. But that stuff happens. However, this one's different. This one is different. If I would like to be around long enough to become a villain, but I would really like to not be a villain. I think the game is just too much fun and too much a part of my life where that would be personally just very, very tough to do. So how do you avoid it? I mean, gosh, I'm just gonna try. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's necessarily a thing that will always happen with games. I mean, think about Riot, think about Blizzard, think about Activision, and like. Have they existed long enough to become the villains? I mean, in many ways, yes. In some ways, others, definitely not. But I don't know. I guess I just got to keep trying to make sure that I'm listening to the community. I think that's the best way to avoid it, is just to understand and stay ingrained with what people are hoping the game turns into, evolves into, and how to make it as fun as possible. Maybe that will keep me out from being a villain.
Well, I think you're touching on it, which is the community keeps us grounded, and already you've opened up these feedback channels for us to reach out to you, whether it's on Twitter or in the PvP discussion on the main Discord, and so I think that has to be the route. And I should admit with full disclosure that I don't necessarily believe in the question. I try to put you in a bit of a trap here, but I hope it I think as being I'm in technical services for the company that I work for, and as we do some of our long-term planning, trying to also avoid that conundrum. And I think one of the challenges, another Batman reference here to the first movie, how do you avoid the battle of escalation, where all of a sudden it gets harder and harder to keep up? And I think putting some speed limits and controls on the heroes would be great, so we don't see that scope creep. When you think about League of Legends, like that's what I think of, their power creep.
Yeah.
Or even Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. So I think that's challenging.
Power creep will happen.
Yeah.
It's an inevitability of any game. Mm-hmm. However, we are a living title. That allows us to go, okay, we flew too close to the sun. Dark Knight is insane. We have to.
Maybe don't nerf a Dark Knight. Okay. I have a mythic Dark Knight.
Right. So Dragoons. Right. Yeah. We'll pick on Dragoons. Monks. Yeah. Specifically monks. Yep. No, that is the benefit of the style of game. There will be frequent patches. There will be changes. There will be intentional changes. Like, hey guys, we don't like how Monk turned out. This could be in a year from now, and say we're going to do a rework. So everybody, a rework is coming for Monk. That happens in games all the time. I mean, League of Legends has changes every season. Final Fantasy XIV completely changes classes. So those in World of Warcraft shit. So those things will happen, and in fact, those are things to look forward to, because it's a breath of fresh air.
I agree.
Yeah, and it allows to hopefully balance out those crazy things that will definitely happen.
I mean, your willingness to answer the question in a candid fashion, I think, should give us all confidence and hope that it's something that you guys are going to work on as a studio. So thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Any closing comments that you have? Is there, something in the industry that keeps you up at night, or, What is it that?
Well, I definitely watch your streams, and they're too late at night.
Yeah.
I would say to you, keep making content, keep doing what you're doing. I love the community that you've built. Adventures has been so cool. I wish I were more active. That's one of the things actually. Eventually, I'll become more active. It's just been very busy trying to build this thing, but I will be more active. And I've really enjoyed what you've done and what you've built. I mean, what you guys have been able to pull off in Discord is insane. It's actually totally insane. 9dwarf's insane. Like it's awesome. Yeah. So I guess my parting thing is like, don't stop doing what you're doing, man. Just keep going, because the stuff that you guys have been doing has been super cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you to Katie, who helped organize and set this up from Wisdom Labs. Thank you, Ian, for doing this interview, and I'm really looking forward to what you guys have in store for us.
Thanks.
Good night.